Good morning, everyone. Today I am planting variegated hydrangea. That's a lacecap hydrangea, and it's a macrophylla hydrangea as well. They're new to me, so I'm going to have to do a lot of reading about them. But before I show you where and what they look like, where I'm planting them, I wanted to show you this border area that I planted up with cocktail gin begonias. For quite a few years, I have always done lemon ball sedum, and that has worked out really well. It gets morning sun right here, then shade almost all day, except for a little bit of sun in the afternoon. We'll see how they fare during our really hot summers, but I want to give it a try and see if they can make it. If they can, the begonias that I planted in our back garden, just behind our lamium and in front of our Merit Supreme hydrangeas, they overwintered, which I was completely surprised. I thought that they would die out during the winter. So we're gonna see how these fare. I'm excited to see them push growth and what they look like, the red foliage against all the green that I have underneath the flower bed. Let me take you to where we're gonna plant the hydrangeas. Right here is where we had 3 plumbago for quite a few seasons. They grew, they produced blue flowers, but they weren't thick and full, and they never got as big as I wanted them to. And I think that's because they were reaching for the sun. We have a Japanese maple just over here to the left of me, and it has become so mature that by the time it leaves out, come spring, which it's beginning to leaf out right now, it almost touches the camphor tree. And so this area gets morning sun and just an ever so slight small amount of afternoon sun. And I think that's why the plumbago just wasn't growing very well. So we moved that to the back. I have been eyeing these variegated hydrangeas for years, and they've already been pruned back by the nursery. They were much bigger when I saw them in the fall. And I've wanted to buy them, and I just never knew of a good place to put them. And I think perhaps they might do well here. So I got 3 of them, and I might get one more. I'm not sure, but we're gonna measure it out, and after I plant them, I'll go over all the stats, because I also planted last night a Pink Princess Escallonia, and I want to go over the stats on that plant as well. This is a Pink Princess Escallonia, and I had never seen it in all my visits to the different nurseries around town until just over the weekend. And my husband's the one that actually saw this and brought it to my attention. It's an evergreen. It is zone 7 to 9, and it can grow between 5 to 6 feet tall and wide, and it does like acidic soil. It can take partial sun to full sun, so I took that for us that it can only take partial sun. This area gets morning sun, and most stuff that says it can take partial to full sun really for us means that it needs afternoon protection just because of our heat. And it will bloom from spring through fall. So I'm kind of excited about this one. I wanted a different color foliage just because I have variegated leaves on this side and also on this side as well. But I do really like this because this area is dark, and because it's so heavily shaded from the trees that for me, I feel like it brings a little bit of light to this area. These are the variegated hydrangeas that I told you I think I'd been eyeing for a couple years. They are a zone 6 to 9, and they can get up to 5 feet wide and 3 feet tall. They're about 1.5 feet. I know it probably doesn't look like it from the ranch fencing, and they're approximately a little over 3 feet distanced apart. And they are macrophylla, and so they will bloom on old wood. I will probably treat them like I do the rest of my hydrangeas, like the Merit Supreme. And if I want to shape them or prune any of the spent blooms off, I will do that probably the first week of August. But they're so small, I'm curious to know how big they're going to get, so I don't know how much of a heavy prune I'll do this fall. But I'm really excited to see what they do. This, I'm not sure if the camera picks up, but this part of our garden slopes down because our house sits higher than this house. And what I'm going to do is attach the 1/4 inch drip tubing and circle each one. And these have emitters every 6 inches. So I'll circle it to the point where there's 4 emitters around each plant. I thought about adding an extra emitter like I did the Merit Supreme. Back there I added on this tubing 5-gallon emitters, and that has worked out really well. But because there's space so far from the plant, I think I'd feel more comfortable putting this around each of them. If you're local, I always see them at Evergreen and Green Hills, and I happen to pick these up at Green Hills. I picked this one up at Willow Gardens for any of you who happen to be local. But I'm so excited. I'm glad we bought them. I'm glad I found a place for them. If I could, I'd tuck hydrangeas in everywhere. But we really don't have a lot of shady area. So I'm going to see how they do. And because I've never planted lacecap hydrangeas before, I'm not sure when they bud up and bloom. And so I'm going to have to read up on them. And so I'm not sure if I'm going to get any blooms this year. I sure hope so. They probably might not come up till around June maybe. So I'll be keeping an eye on it, and I'll get this drip tubing on it so they get sufficient water, because this last week we've had temperatures in the mid-70s, which is unusual for this time of the year, because we're going to drop down into the 30s this coming week and get quite a bit of rain. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye.